goes wrong with kids, it just kind of takes over your whole day, takes over your whole week, just trying to get them back up to speed. I cannot imagine what y'all go through on a day in and day out basis to do what you do for your kids. So I think it's the ultimate example of love. It's the ultimate example of sacrifice. I just can't respect you enough. And so we'll hopefully get some progress to make your job a little bit easier, to make the care for your children just a little bit easier. We'll see what that looks like in the next 100 days or so. But thank you all for being here. Thank you for the effort that you put into it. I know my faith plays a very strong role in my life and what I do. And there's a verse in Galatians chapter 6, verse 9 that says, "Do not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time you shall reap a harvest if you do not give up." And I know you can get weary. I know you can. It can be tough some days, but keep doing what you're doing. It's amazing work. It's God's work, and we appreciate what you're doing. So God bless you guys. We look forward to seeing you around the Capitol today. Thanks for being here, and we look forward to working with you to get these kids the care that they need. God bless you guys.
Hey, I have to tell you something that always makes me smile. At one of the hearings we were at, I overheard somebody in the elevator say, "Boy, are you ready? I hear all those angry moms are showing up in their minivans today." Well, I don't know about angry. The minivan probably part is right, but I would argue we're a bunch of concerned parents who refuse to have our kids not have a voice. So thank you for being the voice of our kids today. They deserve it. And you know, one of the most impressive things to me about this movement is what a grassroots, just powerful thing it's been, with no real egos or heroes, but just a lot of caring people. But she's probably going to get mad at me for doing this, but I think it has to be done. We have to say thanks to Hannah. Where's Hannah at for all that she's doing? Where'd you go, Hannah? Can you come up here and just say a couple of words? And we're going to have some other representatives that are going to be stopping by. I know we have a couple of parents that have offered to tell their story. But Hannah, thanks so much for being our voice, for getting us coordinated. And I know there's tons of people here that have done more things than we can possibly imagine. But we'd love to hear from you for just a second.
Thank you, Brent. We'll talk about this later. Y'all, it is so wonderful to see each of you here today, and I know there's more trying to find parking and circling the Capitol who are on their way, but we are so glad to see you here today. I know it represents a huge sacrifice for you to come out and to bring your children and to travel to the Capitol, to bring your other kids and to put therapies and doctor's appointments on hold and to leave the hospital and come straight here, but it's so important. It's important for our elected officials to see your children, who they represent. It's important for them to see who their decisions impact. And we're so thankful that you came here today to share that and to be a voice for our children. And not just for those who are standing here, but for those who cannot be here today. For those who are in the hospital, for those who are too sick and too fragile to come here. Thank you for coming and for speaking for them. It's so important. There's a saying, you should get into politics as if your life depends on it, because it does. And most of us have not been politically active because we've spent years trying to keep our children alive. But part of keeping our children alive is ensuring they have access to appropriate services. Part of keeping them alive is ensuring that they have a future and a hope for a future that doesn't include institutionalization, but it includes being in the home and in the community where they belong, being a part of a productive life and having a hope that they do have a future. In years past, that wasn't possible. Today, we know it is possible. And not only is it possible, but it's far more cost effective for the state. And so we want you, and we need you and your help in sharing that message with our elected officials who have been elected to represent you and your children. And we hope that you will help us today carry that message. We know that each one of you has played such a huge role in bringing us to this point. So many things that have been done behind the scenes, and I know if I started to name every one of you, I would forget many of you, because truly each and every one of you has played an integral role in this. So thank you for being a voice for our children. It's so important, and truly it is a moral test of our government. You know, as a Texan, I'm proud of the many ways that our state is first, but I'm not so proud of where our state ranks in caring for those who have disabilities and for those who have challenges and who have special needs and who have medically complex needs where they need that assistance in catastrophic circumstances, and they need someone to come alongside them and bring them to a better place so that they can be a productive part of our community. And as a Texan, I say to the folks in this building, to each of you gathered here today, we can do better. Texas not only can do better and should do better, but we absolutely must do better. And you all are here to help hold our elected officials and help hold our state government accountable for making sure that that happens. Thank you so much.
So flag me down if you're one of our presenters today. We have several representatives stopping by. We also have a couple of nonprofit representatives stopping by. But I don't think there's anything more powerful than the voice of a parent. And Adrian, is this a good time? Would you make your way up here? And while she's coming this way, I'm going to channel the spirit of Alex. How many of you know Alex, one of our fathers who couldn't be here today, but he and I were talking on the phone last night. And I love his analogy where he said this program is if somebody's asked us to get on a plane and take a trip, and they tell us the plane is sort of built, they sort of think it might get us where we need to go, and they sort of think it won't fall out of the sky. That's the risk that we face when we put our fragile kids in a program that's not ready, that's not appropriate, and that doesn't provide the care and access that our kids need. The risk is high, and the kids are important, and Adrian's going to come and tell her story about why this matters for her.
Okay, I had to write it down so I wouldn't be emotional today, and I'd be clear in thought. I'm not good as Hannah. But today, according to Wikipedia's Ash Wednesday, is a day of fasting, is the first day of Lent in Western Christianity. Ash Wednesday is observed by many Western Christians. The biblical significance of this gesture was also used to express sorrow for sins and faults. I believe that the Texas legislature, along with the Health and Human Services Commission, has done a great injustice to the most vulnerable children in Texas. In this session, our lawmakers have the opportunity to act and to try to rectify what has been done that causes harm to our families and children. Thank you all for coming, to our friends and family. I'm a mother of 3 wonderful children, right over there, Hannah, Hayden, and Garrett. I'm also a moral conservative. I believe that life is to be cherished, and I celebrate and have incredible, joyful moments nearly every day that we are out of the hospital together as a family. This is my story. But for those of you here, I ask you to imagine the following scenario. Imagine that your friend, your cousin, your daughter, or your wife become pregnant, and shortly thereafter, with an ultrasound or blood test, they learn that the child has permanent birth defects. What is your advice to this person? Do you stand firm in your conviction that you support life, or do you, like most, suggest termination and abortion? If you suggest life, how do you support them, knowing that they will not only undergo the most extraordinary emotional hardships, marital problems, but also have the risk of complete financial bankruptcy should they choose to keep this child? I ask you, how do you support them? How do you support them with uncertainty of dealing with health crisis on a daily basis? How do you support them when they max out of their lifetime insurance benefits after the child is born, but before they come home from the hospital? How do you support them when their education and life savings can be extinguished in the matter of a month? How do you support them when they need weekly therapy to keep their child progressing and out of the hospital? How do you support them knowing that one-time medical crisis is not the case, that it will be ongoing for a lifetime? How do you support them when they spend more time in the hospital than they do anywhere else outside of their home? The answer is you support them by continuing to let them work. Let them be with their family where they can flourish and receive care at home instead of in the hospital or in an institution. We support them as a community and as a society. Medicaid was established for the most vulnerable and needy. We support them by giving them true continuity of care, which means that whenever and wherever they live, whatever their financial means, whatever their education, that they will receive the same help that they need for their children based on their children's disability and not their ability to provide for the child. That they have their agency to search and find what is appropriate care for their own child. Why are the cuts to the budget being made to the expense of our most vulnerable children? The new managed care model is failing our children's families. The rush to implement while ignoring the recommendations of the Health and Human Services Committee has left us paying the consequences these past 120 days. Some MCOs are not being held accountable for how they are finding these cost savings. We simply want to take care of our children and keep them out of hospitals and institutions. We need our lawmakers to fix this mess. The lives of our fragile children should be a top priority where important matters and urgency meet. I urge all of our moral conservatives that choose life not to be hypocritical when making political policy and legislature, cutting money over things that matter. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, I think it's important for you to know who's here today. So how many of you are the parent or family member of a fragile kid that you're here for today? How many parents, family members? So how many of you, and this is just as important, how many of you are not in that group, but you're here as maybe a representative, a staff member, a person from the media, or a friend of one of these fragile kids? That's awesome. So let me tell you as a dad, as I look around at these kids, the sacrifices that were made for these families to even be on these steps today. I mean, you have no idea the hours of packing supplies and preparing feedings and medications and getting in the van. Some of these folks traveling halfway across the state. Some of them have left jobs, have left school, and nobody's paying them to do that. We're not some well-heeled, well-funded, paid staff-run organization, but these are families who, just in the day-to-day care of their kids, endure sacrifices that most of this world could never imagine. And then on top of that, to dedicate time to this effort is just beyond words. So thank you to all of you for what you're doing to make life for my Chloe better, and for all the kids that we don't even know and have not yet been born who deserve that care. So thank all of you for being here. So I want to hear from some other folks, and Hannah just flagged me down if we have any other of our guest speakers that show up, but I want to remind you exactly why we're here. We have some guests and some media who are saying, now what's this about and why are you here? We are here because it's time to act. And do you remember what those letters stand for, ACT? I'll give you a little clue and then you can say it with me. So A, access to appropriate care. C, challenge Texas to do better. And T, take action now. We're here to act. The time is right, the stakes are high, and our kids deserve it. So with that in mind, let's hear from somebody else. Is Jennifer here? Jennifer Hall, are you here? Not yet. Any of our other representatives or anybody? Awesome. Dennis, are you here? Come on up. Where's Dennis at? So Dennis is the Executive Director of the Coalition of Texans with Disabilities, and we're really proud of what they do and how it affects our kids. And Dennis, thank you for being here, and we welcome you to share your thoughts.
Wow, thank you for being here today. So yeah, the Coalition of Texans with Disabilities is a statewide advocacy organization representing all kinds of disabilities. So when Hannah asked me to come here, she said, well, what would you tell folks to be most effective? Well, you've done it. You've brought the face of the issue. These children here speak volumes. Let them be your words, but also communicate. I'm going to tell you to do a few things. Be sure to see your state senator, your state representative, and make an ask. Don't go there and just tell your story. Specifically ask, what are you going to do to restore these funding cuts? And in my opinion, and I'm privileged to represent people with disabilities and speak in this building, your best chance of success to move things forward is replace those funding cuts, restore them. Now, I know a lot of you want to undo managed care, but you've got to have money one way or the other. And that's what you should be asking for. They're talking about severe cuts to kids with disabilities. Last session, they cut off $150 million of state money, which caused them to forfeit another $250 million of federal money and left $400 million cuts to Medicaid therapies for kids with disabilities. That was a very ill-advised, foolish thing to do and resulted in access to care. Now,